Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our May 18th session. I need a motion, please, to go into special session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the first thing we have today is the lifting of the mayor's declaration of civil emergency. So this was put into place back in March of last year, and thankfully, we're starting to be in the clear of the civil emergency. So I have a proclamation, the end of the civil emergency for May 18th, 2021. Whereas the mayor and city council have a responsibility to promote public health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of the city of Hagerstown. And whereas the mayor has authority under the code of the city of Hagerstown, chapter 76, civil emergency, to determine and declare the existence of a civil emergency and to end such declaration at his or her discretion. And whereas in response to the increase of those who have received a COVID vaccination, the decrease in positive COVID cases, current guidance released by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Governor of Maryland's most recent directives concerning mask mandates, as well as capacity limits on indoor and outdoor venues and dining restrictions, the Mayor of Hagerstown, Maryland has determined that a separate declaration of civil emergency within the city of Hagerstown is no longer deemed necessary. Now therefore, I, Emily Keller, Mayor of the city of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby proclaim and announce the lifting of the declaration of the civil emergency was put into place on March 16, 2020. The city of Hagerstown encourages our residents to continue practicing safe and sanitary measures while we return to a sense of normalcy. So, we definitely still want to encourage people to make sure they're following CDC guidelines and being safe, so we don't have to go through this again. Up next, we have an approval of an ordinance for tax rates beginning July 1st, 2021.
I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance on May 11, 2021 to establish the city's tax rates for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 on the basis of $1.002 per 100 of assessed value of all real property, excluding properties designated as apartments, which will be $1.032 per 100 of assessed value and $2.505 per 100 of assessed value of all personal property within the city of Hagerstown. These rates are the same as current fiscal year 21 rates.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approval of an ordinance budget fiscal year 2021/22.
I hereby move for the approval of an ordinance on May 11, 2021 to adopt the city's budget for fiscal year July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 in the total amount of $142,035,625.
Second.
Seconded by Takesha. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Up next, we have the introduction of an ordinance, acquisition of 441 South Potomac Street.
Madam Mayor, I hereby move to introduce an ordinance authorizing the purchase of property located at 441 South Potomac Street for $162,000. The property contains approximately 1.08 acres, which shall be subdivided from the larger CMD parcel. The mayor and city council wish to acquire the property for the purpose of building a headquarters for the city's fire department and a fire station. Second.
Seconded by Tiara. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Sorry, Lisa.
Up next, we have approval of a resolution authorizing the application for Main Street Improvement Program grant from Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development.
Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval resolution for the city of Hagerstown to apply for a Main Street Improvement Program grant through Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development in the amount of $35,310 with a $5,000 matching contribution from the Main Street Hagerstown line item in the general fund. The funding will be used for replacement pole banners, landscaping and maintenance of landscaping at Public Square, and holiday decorations.
Second.
Seconded by Shelley.
Yeah.
No one gets
Any
it.
discussion? Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm not used to hearing voices without
Is that what it
masks.
is?
I don't-
I thought it'd be easier to distinguish.
Apparently,
which
I
ones
was
were.
used to this sound.
Oh, y'all sound the same.
You do? Tier? Okay.
All right, approval of fiscal year 20 payment for 911 funding to Washington County government.
Mayor and council hereby direct staff to release payment to Washington County for $405,630 for FY 20 funding of the 911 center and wages until an agreement can be finalized and completed.
Second.
Seconded by Takesha. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Have the dates been established and confirmed for the meetings that we had requested? And/or is there ESAC? Have we moved forward with a representative to sit on the ESAC?
Did you?
There's
I
not,
believe probably waiting on this.
They're waiting on this?
Yes,
And-
the invitation has been sent.
Okay,
and there has not been a ESAC meeting yet.
okay. Didn't know if it was discussed anymore. Okay.
Any further discussion?
Yes. I was just gonna sit here and shut up and vote yes, okay, but I can't do it. I truly understand the reasoning behind the initial request and submission by the city so many years ago to pay additional monies beyond what city taxpayers currently pay to the county for the 911 center, because we were transferring employees, and it helped both the county and the city at the same time. It helped us because we didn't have to upgrade our radio systems and keep maintenance there, and it helped the county because they didn't have to retrain people, recruit people, hire people, and do all those things. So it was a benefit to both at that time. Over the years, and the $4+ million that the city has paid to the county for 911 services above and beyond what the city taxpayers already pay for the county 911 center through their taxes, I believe that we have most definitely reached a point, an apex of where we shouldn't ever have to pay additional again. But hopefully this gets the ball rolling, as it would have done 8 months ago, had they even responded to the letter that was sent, requesting a meeting. Then, hopefully this will get the ball rolling to be able to have some meetings that will be fruitful, and an understanding can be reached for either, future payments, additional tax set-off, or whatever that's gonna look like. But there's definitely, before I would ever vote yes again to send the payment, there's gonna have to be a written agreement in place.
Right, and just to be clear, we still owe fiscal year 21.
Well, they ain't
This
gonna
is
get
not
that.
fiscal year 21. This was paying for fiscal year 20
Yep,
to have negotiations, and then we
that's
still
not
have
due to
fiscal
July
year
1st.
21.
So,
Just have to keep the faith.
yeah, keep the faith.
Keep the faith.
Any further discussion?
All day, all day.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. All right. We are out of special session, moving into our work session. Up first, we have a proclamation for EMS Week. I just want to know who's like out protecting our city right now, because it's like a whole lot of people here.
Didn't see them get up and leave, that's why.
Do you guys want to all come up here?
Do you want some mask on? Yeah.
Wait, I turned it off. I always do that. I turn it off instead of on. All right, so I'm gonna read the proclamation first, and I'm gonna say a few words and have you guys say a few words. Okay. So whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and whereas the member of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. And whereas emergency medical services has grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventative maintenance, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency services teams, whether career or volunteer, engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services provided by designated EMS Service Week. Now therefore, with the EMS strong theme, this is EMS caring for our communities. I, Emily Keller, Mayor of the City of Hagerstown, Maryland, do hereby proclaim May 16th through 22nd as Emergency Medical Services Week and encourage our community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. So I, for one, just want to say thank you. I was able to do a ride along with you guys once, and I made it 12 hours, and I was in awe. I already have such a high level of respect for what you guys do, but being able to see it firsthand and to imagine having to do that every single day, I just can't imagine. You know, our community is so much better because of your organization, and because of the level of care that you provide. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You have saved so many people and helped so many people, and it doesn't go unnoticed at all. So I'm honored to be a member of your board, and I'm honored to stand here and have the opportunity to face-to-face say thank you for what you do every day. And would you guys like to say a few words?
Hello, my name is Lieutenant Hartman. I'm in charge of training and QA here. I've been here about 5 years. I left a full-time job in West Virginia to come over here because of the people that I work with. I've been around, I've competed, I've won state and national competitions in EMS as far away as Las Vegas, and I can tell you that the people that you have standing in front of you are much better than any of the people that I competed with. So while you may have a lot to worry about in this city, I can assure you that you do not have to worry about EMS.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief Robert Buck. I just want to thank all of you for the recognition for the work that they do. I've been here with CRS going on 19 years. Seen a lot of evolutions, a lot of changes, administrative as well as opportunities and trainings on the street. We're still on pace to run right about 18,000 responses this year. Now that is a combination of within the city and within Washington County. 18,000 calls a year puts us to average about 55 a day with 5 crews. So they are the best of the best.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
They're also the quietest of the quiet. Quiet, they've been a long time.
Thank you very much for coming.
We just do 2 rows on the side.
Yep. We're in it. We're always in it.
We'll be back here photo bomb. No, none of us. Shelly, maybe.
I'm in it. I can feel it.
See everybody's faces?
She said, I'm
Okay, here we go. And 1, 2, 3. And
You narrow it
one
down.
more. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
You're hilarious.
I don't know. You just never know.
All right, we are going to flip the next 2 agenda items. We're going to start with Phase 2 Facility Concept Study. We have Al Tyler from the Maryland Stadium Authority, Chris Karpinski, Rummel,
Madam
Klepper, and Call Civil Engineering
Madam Mayor,
Incorporated.
you wanna do the
I'm sorry?
agenda?
We're flipping the agenda items.
Oh, I
Yep,
didn't know we were doing.
Because they're all on.
yeah.
I didn't hear that part.
All right,
And
thank
this
you.
must be a special meeting because Al Tyler has got his video on, which he never does. And Gary.
Do it for the important, Scott, you know, so we try to make everybody happy.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Mr. Tyler, I'll give you the floor.
Hi, Madam Mayor and other council members. Thank you for having us. It's an exciting day for us. We released the second phase of the Hagerstown study. It was released this afternoon. Coincidentally, we were just advised very recently that Senate Bill 926 was signed today, which is related to this. So everything kind of happens at the same time. So as you may or not remember, we released phase 1 study back in May of 2019. That was a site assessment and market analysis for a new multi-use sport and events facility. That site analysis indicated that the Baltimore Street location was the preferred location for further study. This second phase focused on that study. We engaged RK&K and Populous and one of our on-call consultants, O'Connor Construction Management, to provide cost estimating services to complement RK&K's design and Populous's design efforts with us. So we put that together, and RK&K Populous team came up with 4 different concepts that are outlined in the report. The report is available on through our website, and it can be accessed there. The concepts are outlined in there. 4 concepts that are included in that. The primary characteristics of the facility is seating capacity of about 5,000, 3,000, 3,500 fixed seats, event space for up to 400, includes a community room. We understand that the project needed to be as part of that conceptual design and will need to be as part of the actual design and construction multi-use. And it also incorporates the Hagerstown Cultural Trail. That was very important in all of our discussions to make sure that was preserved. So primary use, as we understand it, is going to be minor league baseball. The program and the facility and the concepts accommodates that. It also accommodates other sports, including soccer, high school football, small college football, lacrosse, field hockey, rugby. Also accommodates non-sport related items such as esports, concerts, festivals, town halls, meetings, that kind of stuff. So there are several estimates that are included with the report. Funny thing is that sort of, whatever's in there, that the new work starts now based on the legislation that was just signed. There's also some real estate transaction that needs to go on. So quite honestly, we're really excited to be working with the key stakeholders and to make the project a success. Now that things are executed and signed, it's an interesting situation for us because usually our reports are used to be able to go and initiate legislation. You guys were able to get the legislation done before the report was done, so that was an interesting process for us. So looking forward to any questions, and if no questions, looking forward to working with you and the rest of the stakeholders in Hagerstown to make the project a success.
Thank you.
Al, this is Scott. That study is now on the MSA website, though, for
Yes, sir.
public review?
Yep.
Okay.
Available on the MSA website.
I actually have a copy of it here also for anyone if they want to look at it, or we can make copies of this also for all of you as well. So.
It's in our email, too. We did get it.
Oh, you did get your email? Okay, good.
Do you guys have any questions?
No, I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I haven't read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so.
I didn't hear you.
Do you have any questions?
I heard that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Everybody's seen it?
No.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I guess that's what I don't know.
Well,
What
it's in our emails.
right, I don't know what the purpose is here then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for us to have a discussion about something we were just sent,
Is there any opportunity to
Today.
maybe just go over the basics of the four concepts? I mean, I know it's kind of a funky way to, that it wasn't allowed to be released until 4 o'clock and then we have this meeting, to basically say it's, here it is. but is there any way that maybe Chris could go into, you know, the key aspects of the four concepts, just in general?
Sure. Well, I can start. Like I said, the physical characteristics of a 5,000 seat stadium. Currently it orients towards downtown, at the corner of Baltimore and Summit. It does accommodate baseball as well as other rectangular sports. In there, the difference between the concepts, part of our work was a lot of geotechnical and due diligence work. Found, you know, what the conditions are below your feet. So the primary driver of that is there is some rock that is present at a certain elevation. So the primary driver of the four concepts, it revolves around the removal of rock and the amount of amenities that can be accommodated because of the elevation of the constraints that the rock could or could not pose. So essentially the stadium is essentially the same thing. Some of the other amenities that get affected as you push things up and push things down because of rock include like parking, on-site parking for VIPs and players and that kind of stuff, and some of the other amenities such as concession stand location and locker room location and that kind of stuff.
Chris, how about, you know, I heard you mention high school football as one of the things that could be held there. Is the turf going to be, I mean, is it slated to be grass, or is it slated to be, you know, artificial, or?
That would be determined working with the stakeholders moving forward. You know, the folks who are going to operate and use the facility. So that has not been finally determined yet. Based on multi-use, you know, turf usually kind of bubbles to the top of those conversations, but if there was a strong desire for grass, we would figure out how to accommodate it as well.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if this is really a question. Obviously, now that the dynamics of the project have changed a bit in terms of ownership and, you know, debt service obligation, you know, to the parameters of the project, you know, obviously the city has a much more limited role in the obligations associated with that process. As I've said to the citizens in these meetings, this is really, you know, the baby of private parties and of the state at this point. I think the obligation of the city is down to a couple of key components. One being infrastructure associated with the project, you know, ensuring that adequate, you know, water, sewer, and other ancillary services are ready and available, just as we would with any other private development. The other is efforts, partnering efforts for the proposed adjoining parking deck, ensuring that timing associated with this separate project and the city's capital project for a parking deck are you know, concurrent with one another. And then for me, you know, most directly is, you know, the relocation or incorporation of our, you know, $4 million investment that we have into the cultural trail that currently sits on the property. And so, you know, for me, if each of those things can be met, I mean, at the end of the day, what we'll be doing is making sure that cultural trail is preserved in both its physical concept and the spirit of its, you know, implementation, and you know, charging people to park for all of the activities that are proposed to be slated to go on there.
Do you guys have any? You don't know what the question?
No,
I mean, so the cultural trail is included in all of the design concepts.
so it sounds like.
That's correct. The cultural trail will remain as part of any concept design. That's included in this proposal, or this right now. And as we get through the design, the next phase of design and construction, we'll refine any of those 4 concepts, and we'll certainly include the cultural trail as part of that conversation moving forward. I think everybody involved in the project up until now understands how important that amenity is.
Thank you. Bob, do you have any questions? Do you have any further questions?
I mean, I'm sure I will once I actually get to see the
Yeah.
product.
Okay.
Yes, it's hard to ask questions without fully reading the study.
Yeah. All right, well, we appreciate you guys coming to join us today, and since the council was just able to receive it, and obviously we can't really review while we're in a meeting, maybe we could have you back in a couple weeks if there's some questions, or to get an update, and if there's any questions from the council, I'm sure they can email you as well, but maybe we could do another update once we're able to kind of digest everything and take a look at it.
Absolutely. Happy to answer any questions. My email is in there. As I said, Madam Mayor, it's interesting because the work starts on design and construction shortly now, and there's usually a break in between that and some refinement and that stuff, but we're going to hit the ground running. So
Thank you. And the rest of you guys that joined us on the Zoom call today, do you have anything you'd like to add or say?
Hi, Darren Glicken, Head of Capital Projects. Sorry, Chris. No, I have nothing to add. Just thank you for the opportunity, and we'll stay in touch throughout the process. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say Al did a nice job summarizing basically the key components of the report. So thank you very much for the opportunity to join you today.
All right, well.
I just want to thank Al and Gary for working with me. It's been 2 years. I mean, the first meeting that I sat in was when this thing was approved, and these guys have been great, holding my hand through this and answering my questions and being available. So I look forward to working with them as we move forward as it relates to what the city is going to be involved with.
thanks, Scott. And the feeling's mutual. You and Rodney were phenomenal through the whole thing. So we really appreciate all the working relationship and look forward to continuing. So
Well, thank you guys very much for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
thank you.
All right. Up next, we have my favorite. There are so many words. The preliminary agenda review. If you guys have any questions, please stop me. So we will have our regular session, May 25th. Are we adding in an executive session? Okay, so we're going to have an executive session at 6 o'clock. And then we'll have a regular session at 7 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll have an invocation, pledge to the flag. I'm sorry?
Bye, Bob.
Yeah, I'm doing it this time, yeah.
Okay, we'll have an invocation by Bob. We'll go over the announcements and follow the rules of procedure effective December 15th, 2020. Our meeting schedule for June will be June 1st. We will have no meeting. June 8th and 15th, we'll have work sessions at 4 p.m. June 22nd, we'll have a regular session at 7 p.m. June 29th, there's no meeting because we will be at the MML Summer Conference. Then we have appointments for the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have Aaron Smith, term to expire May 31st, 2024. We have guests for the Maryland Municipal League If I Were a Mayor essay contest recognition. Really excited about that. We have citizen comments. You can provide comments in person or by sending an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, May 25th. We'll approve the minutes. On the consent agenda, we have Department of Community and Economic Development, open container exemption for Imagine Hagerstown music events, open container exemption revised for August Oktoberfest. Finance, we have billing operations, postage and bill processing, Arista Information Systems for $192,000. Under fire, we have equipment necessary to outfit a pumper for multiple vendors not to exceed $100,000. For HR, we have Pacific Stop Loss Insurance for $332,398. City-sponsored life insurance through Hartford for $33,950. Dental Insurance Administration, United Concordia, for $43,372. Administration of Medical Coverage, United Healthcare, for $321,617. Employee Assistance Plan Annual Premium for ComPsych for $9,936. Excess Workers' Compensation Liability Insurance for $174,609. Workers' Compensation Security Deposit Bond, Continuous Bond through Safety National Casualty for $38,100. And Workers' Comp Self-Insurance TPA Services through PMA Management Corporation for $20,000. For IT, we have Airwife Units for Software House International, Inc., $13,738.80. Utilities, under electric, software support and maintenance for $69,740. Electric contract to provide line work services for $150,000. For electric blanket contract for substation testing and maintenance services for $110,000. Electric consulting services for $50,000. Electric distribution transformers of various types, voltage, and sizes for $80,000. For electric, we have blanket order to provide services for distribution transformer for $45,000. Emergency purchase substation transformer bushings for $27,354. Under water, we have ductile iron pipe for $25,870. For wastewater, we have emergency repairs for Muffin Monster for $18,058.77. And water and wastewater disposal of chemicals. Okay, under unfinished business, we have approval of an ordinance, land management code amendments, and approval of an ordinance for acquisition of 441 South Potomac Street. Under new business, approval of a resolution for 216 South Prospect Street, approval of resolutions for residential rentals in parks, Eric Hastings, 280 Mill Street, Gerald Bernheiser, 570 Jefferson Street, Louis Thomas, 728 Frederick Street, and Emily Conrad, 120 Key Street. We have approval of memorandum of understanding with the Maryland Department of Transportation for City Park Train Hub locomotive restoration and pavilion replacement. Approval of MOU for the Maryland Department of Transportation for traffic signal upgrades at Eastern Boulevard and Frederick Street. Approval of the Invest Hagerstown application, 49 and 37 Jonathan Street. And approval of on-call electrical contract maintenance service contract, July 1st, 21 through June 30th, 22. City Administrator comments, Mayor Council comments, and we're adjourned. You guys get that, or you want me to read it again?
I think we're good.
I'm good.
All right. No questions there. Up next, we have Stormwater Protection Program, MKS Business Park with Rodney Tissue.
Good afternoon. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years on the stormwater program, talking about how we're going to fund it and different things like that. And now I think we're at the point where we got to start implementing some projects to fulfill our permit requirements. So the MKS Business Park is off of Eastern Boulevard. It's Professional Court, Conrad Court, Opal Court in that area. They have a very large stormwater pond that was constructed there in the early 1990 era. And there's an opportunity there for us to take over that pond and fulfill some of our stormwater requirements. So if I go back to the stormwater permit that MDE has issued to us, it requires us to do a lot of things, but one thing it specifically says, and where all the cost and all the work is that we have to treat or remove 20% of the impervious area within the city, which adds up to 396 acres that we have to deal with. So to accomplish that, we have to come up with a bag of tricks, so to speak, that is different tactics that we can use to treat that kind of acreage. So we put together this restoration plan that's in your packet that includes street sweeping, which is super critical to the success of this overall program because it's a very, very cost-effective way to treat a lot of acreage. We have an incentive program for private landowners to implement stormwater management. We have stream restoration, we have reforestation, and then there's this one called stormwater facility retrofits, where we take these old stormwater ponds and we retrofit them in ways that the water that flows through them is cleaned and then released in a cleaner state after going through the facility. This is the first one that we've looked at, but we feel that we can get about 20 acres of credit by taking over this pond, retrofitting it, using our stormwater protection program funds, and it would be the first major project towards implementing and meeting our permit goals. So our recommendation is that we accept the donation from the developers and that we take over this pond and we work towards retrofitting it sometime next year.
Thank you. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah.
So the cost, Rodney, is, 400 total or 400 plus the 100?
We're using 500,000 as our overall estimate when you include design, permitting, all the different things that we have to go through. We think the actual work will be about 400,000. So what we always look at is how much cost per credit acre. And the state said if you can do anything under 50,000, you're doing pretty good. That seems way too high to us. So we're trying to keep things down in the 20, 25 range.
Gotcha.
And we feel if we can get those kind of projects done, that we'll be successful getting this all meeting our permit requirements.
Yeah, I'm good.
Do you guys have any other questions? You good?
No, good.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll have that on the agenda next week to accept the donation.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now we have the Storywalk proposal for City Park. Rodney. And are you going to be joined by Jenny?
I'm basically just going to turn this over to Jenny. She has a nice little presentation put together. Councilman McIntyre has been very instrumental in this project as well, so I'm going to turn it over to you ladies.
Thank you so much. Well, Mayor and Council, my name is Jenny Bacus. I'm the new Executive Director of the Washington County Free Library. I've had the privilege of meeting some of you, but not all of you, so it's really wonderful to see you and then see you in person. So I'm here to introduce the idea of a story walk in historic City Park. And so I'm going to try to make this work. Hopefully it does. Yes, perfect. So a story walk is a fun activity that combines literacy with the joy and benefits of being outdoors. It places the pages of a children's book along a designated path for all to enjoy. So here I have some examples of what the actual story walk panels would look like. This is the anticipated first panel of our story walk that we're looking to do in City Park. The purple square will house the cover of the children's book. Every panel will display the sponsors of the project, which we are happy to say is Meritus Health, the Kiwanis of Hagerstown, and of course the library. The panels will be spaced at intervals along a predetermined path in City Park so families may easily follow the story. So this is just an example of another park that has done this. So right now, this isn't exactly the same, what we're looking at right now, but this is on the south end of City Park where the playground is. I don't have a pointer on here, but you can see where the mansion house is. So what we're looking at is about 17 to 18 panels going up and around. It's a total length of a track that is 1/4 of a mile. Most children's books are right around 30, 32 pages long, so this would allow us to put 2 pages per panel. So the stories will be interchangeable. Librarians will select the books and process them to create a new story walk every couple of months. So this project will enable families to enjoy a natural space and at the same time encourage reading. We appreciate the support that you would give this project. Thank you. Any questions?
That's amazing. I can't wait.
Yes, this is awesome.
Awesome.
I think the funding of this is important, Councilman McIntyre.
Yes. So we were able to, I went to Meritus and approached them based on their £1 million that they want to lose and their, bold goals that they have. And it just seemed to go hand in hand. And they have been generous enough to make a contribution of $10,000 to be the sponsor, which will pay for the story walk boards and allow the library kind of a lot more flexibility with, you know,
Yes.
getting very nice story walk
Yes.
panels. So as those of you that are Parks and Rec fans, you know, Parks and Rec and the library working together just seemed like a thing, so, you know, anyway.
We're happy to go against the grain on
Yeah.
that one. But we are very excited about this project.
And the fact that they're gonna be changing the story out, that, you know, the city has really nothing, we just get to enjoy, just makes sense.
We are looking forward to having a ribbon cutting that everybody will be invited to, of course. And our first book that we are anticipating putting in the Story Walk will be written by a Hagerstown native, and it will be actually a book that is set in City Park. So we're really excited to,
Cool.
we're excited about that.
Yeah, awesome. It's becoming a very popular thing, too. We've learned that other cities around the country are actually looking to implement this because it's COVID friendly, it's outside, it's exercise, and, yeah, so. It's fun.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? No? Well, thank you for your work on this.
Oh, no,
So we'll
thank
have
you,
this,
Shelley and
I'm
Rodney,
sorry,
thank you.
Memorandum of understanding in your packet next week for approval, and then off we go.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shelley.
Good job.
You're welcome. Yeah, fun stuff. I'll take your grandkids, yeah. I'll read a couple times.
All right, up next, we have the Invest Hagerstown City Center Redevelopment Grant Application for 49 and 37 Jonathan Street.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to present an application that meets the eligibility requirements for the Invest Hagerstown City Center Redevelopment Grant Program. And the applicant is City Sprouts LLC, with the owner being Amir Shirazi. The property is 49 and 37 Jonathan Street. The project involves renovating this as a mixed-use development, both new residential units and also improvement to the commercial space on the first floor, with an estimated total project cost of just under $690,000. So the requested grant amount with the 2-to-1 match requirement is $230,000. They expect to start very soon with a completion date of September, the end of September of this year. The review committee recommends setting a completion date associated with the grant of July 1st of '22 to offer any contingencies for any delays. The project will create 8 residential units and 2 commercial units, which has had some discussion about attracting national retailers to the first floor. And the new job creation expected within 2 years of the completion of the project is 6 new jobs. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this project.
I passed by this building yesterday and was excited to think about, you know,
Very exciting
yes.
location for new investment.
yeah, it's much needed. You guys have any questions?
No, thank you.
If
Good.
you're supportive of this, there would be a motion in the packet next week for approval.
Yep, we're good. Thank you. All right, then we have the Invest Hagerstown Program update.
So I'm happy to give you an update on the Invest Hagerstown program and just a little bit of background for residents watching. This program is an umbrella name for a set of 5 incentives that includes support for private sector physical improvements to our commercial and mixed-use buildings, both citywide and in downtown, and also has a component for rental rehabilitation to improve the quality of our rental properties throughout the city. There's a downtown facade program under the Invest Hagerstown umbrella, and also a homeownership program that provides support for either down payment assistance or rehabilitation of some of our older vacant properties as they become the new homes for new homeowners in our community. In your packet, my goal today is to give you an update on the expenditures and projected expenditures for fiscal year 20 and 21. to talk about the funding levels for fiscal year '22, and then to review a couple of guidelines and policy questions that will help our review committee administer the program. So one page in your packet has a snapshot of fiscal year '20 and the breakdown across the 5 categories of the committed expenditures for the $800,000 for fiscal year '20. And it breaks down with 448 for city center, 165 for citywide redevelopment, 164,500 for home ownership, 7,500 for the rental property rehab program, and just under 15,000 for the facade program. And I would say these numbers are not yet reconciled. We have an upcoming meeting with the finance office to fully reconcile this, and also they're not yet adjusted for any incomplete projects that if for unforeseen reasons don't move forward and don't come to completion for the project, that those funds could potentially be redirected. And we can give you a follow-up date once we've completed the reconciliation. I would say in fiscal year '20, $800,000 leveraged to create over $9.2 million in private investment. And that's really the objective of the program, is to use public funds to foster and leverage additional private sector investment in the community. So that ratio of $800,000 buying over $9.2 million in new investment is fairly significant and something that really shows the strength of the program.
That's incredible. Yeah.
In fiscal year '21, the next chart in your packet, these are projected actuals. The only amounts committed so far are just under $410,000 for 2 projects that were approved by the mayor and city council under city center redevelopment. The project that we just discussed, if approved next week, would increase that by the $230,000 projected for that commitment. And then there are a number of expected either applications that are received in our office that are in process, or ones that we're in conversation with investors. What we expect the demand on the program will be for the balance of this fiscal year. And the breakdown is 709 if you approve the city center projects that are in the queue, and then citywide at 50,000, home ownership at 22,500, rental rehab at 15,000, and facade at 7,500, making up the 804 in the current fiscal year. And I would say because of the pandemic, we were for 2/3, maybe 3/4 of fiscal year '21 using remaining balance of fiscal year '20, and we've seen a large volume of applications in this last quarter of this fiscal year that we're really using the fiscal year '21 money with a large volume of applications toward the end of the fiscal year. I can pause for any questions on those 2 parts.
It was good.
Next, on the next page, we're seeking direction for the funding levels of fiscal year '22. The budgeted amounts, which were also in the budget book, is to allocate based on past funding levels to the 5 categories of 500 for city center, 125 for citywide, 112,500 for home ownership, 55,000 for rental property, and 26,500 for facade. In the expected demand on the program, just based on applications that are pending, there is significant amount of demand specifically in the city center grant, redevelopment grant component of Invest Hagerstown. So the expected demand just on that one component is really over $1 million that could come in as applications against the total 819 that we have available for fiscal year '22. And then known and expected right now, we have about 75,000 expected for the citywide grant program. I would also say the home ownership program is very popular, and as we saw in the previous year, that we could expect, just like in fiscal year '20, over 100,000, maybe upwards of 160,000 to support on average about 20 to 25 homeowners that come through that program on an annual basis. So I think the challenge really for fiscal year '22 is a high demand for the program and the limited resources, so really seeking your direction on how to get started with the fiscal year and the direction on the funding levels.
So it looks to me like the rental property rehabilitation really hasn't been utilized the way I think we expected it to be. I mean, the first year, 7,500 out of 55,000, then 15,000 out of 55,000. So maybe that's an area we could cut from to add more into some of the higher demand categories.
We still receive interest, but I would agree that it's often less than what we project each year. But I think it's an important component of the program, and we still continue to receive applications.
I think there's a difference between receiving interest and pushing for interest. I mean, I guess I struggle a little bit with the fact even in our conversation this morning and even the survey results, clearly there is an interest by the citizens for improvement to the condition of the rental stock we have in the city. And clearly the majority of housing that we have in the city is rental stock. You know what I mean? So for me, I struggle to understand what the difficulty is. I mean, is it not enough money? You know what I mean? Toward an effort, or is it that landlords just don't want any certain conditions that come along with it, or what have you? I don't know, but I'd be interested to understand what the hurdles are, because I would want that component to be just as successful as the home ownership component, given the fact that the number 3 item folks cited repeatedly in the survey today was the quality of rental housing, of that blight, those things. I mean, for me, part of the reason of throwing this in, besides the fact that we upped our tax rate on apartment properties that are paying in to create this fund, was a lot of sort of the half doubles, and that you see where one half of the double looks in good condition and the other half maybe vacant or not in that condition, and to give incentive to get good landlords to want to buy into those types of properties and use this to this formula or this avenue to make it happen. And so if it's not enough, then we need to change the scope of the 7,500 so we can get, I want the full 55 used, and so if 7,500 is not enough, then just make it 10,000 or whatever, and I'd rather have 5 at 10,000 than 1 at 7,500.
Right. And I agree, council member, with the balance between being reactive to the interest that comes in through applications versus proactively going out and seeking to fully utilize the fund. And I think during the first quarter of fiscal year '22, we could spend some time being very proactive in our approach to see if we can learn more about if there are barriers to the program, and to try to generate applications, not simply wait for those applications to come in.
And And like, I wanna make sure that as we go through this process annually, that we remain acutely aware of the fact that everybody's paying into this program, and therefore everybody should get a shot at some of the funding. And I think that the Councilmember Abruzzi touched on it this morning when he said we need to focus on the whole city and not just one part. You know, everybody's paying into this, and so, you know, rental potential and homeownership potential and small business potential and downtown potential, and at some point that downtown potential is gonna hit a critical mass where we may not need this level of seed money because those buildings are gonna have that volume of turnover, and we can focus more of that effort and that financing into those other neighborhoods for those, you know, similar investing revitalization objectives. But I just want to make sure that until we get to that point, and I see the sheet sitting here staring us in the face saying, look, in FY '22, we could burn through all this money downtown, almost as if to say, let's do it. And I want to make sure that we continue to hold back from that desire, because I don't think that it equally benefits all of the folks and all of the businesses and everybody that should get an equal shot at this money up and until, I think, what is it, March of the year, to where then it becomes an open pot. And at the same time, I want to make sure that we're advertising it aggressively enough that we're not sort of holding the pot back, waiting for March so that we have a sum of money ready to go for these big projects, you know, to happen, because I don't think that you know, is a good and fair use of these public funds. I think they need to be equally marketed and equally available.
Well, and I don't argue against any of what you said. I'll just point out that maybe lack of advertisement or marketing of the rental rehab program could be at fault. Maybe COVID and the fact that landlords were put in a position where there was a moratorium on, you know, people didn't pay. I mean, I think all those things may have factored in last year. Hopefully this year's a different story.
You got someone to abandon the ship.
Yeah, and I don't, yeah, and I'm actually looking forward for fiscal year '22 to have actually more funds available due to Fed money that may help in some more of these projects to even beef these up a little bit higher. You know, if we can, you know, do some marketing, get more interest, and again, get outside of the core area to get this kind of investment in rehab and home ownership and all those things. So hopefully '22 is better than '21 for that.
And I think our numbers have to reflect the market change. I mean, right now, we're at 1/5 of the traditional available housing for purchase on the market. So for me, all I'm saying is I don't think these numbers can be static. So if getting rental, you know, landlord investment takes us bumping that number up and getting less total, you know, numbers of them a year, if getting more homeowners or home buyers interested, it isn't 7,500 and it's got to be 12 because the market's now, you know, averaging 250 a house instead of 150, then I think we need to be flexible enough to do that so that we can exhaust those categories where we want that investment to be made.
So do you want to keep the calculations as they are for this year? Good, we'll keep
I think we do right now, and I think maybe
Yeah.
we tweak it as we go forward as need be.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
You guys go with that?
Yeah, I just don't want to turn down one of the, any projects in those two categories because of the parameters.
Right.
Right.
In other words, if it's $7,500 and some landlord says, you know what, that's just not enough to get me to jump on this, I do it at 12 or 13. We need to be flexible. Your office needs to be flexible enough to have that ability to say, okay, let me see if we can make that happen and get it moving versus, sort of losing that deal, if you will, because this body has set it at some,
Now,
line
would
in
they
the
have to
sand
come
stack.
back to have us okay each one, or would we give that authorization to Jill's office?
I mean, to me, like,
I
I'd
don't know
be
if you want
comfortable
that
giving
pressure.
them an up to number and saying, hey, in these two categories, if you need to make a deal happen, go up to 10 or go up to 12 or something. I just think that getting the number of rental properties that we have in this city, getting that level of investment from good landlords that want to make it, we need to take we need to capture every one of them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with an up to number if we could figure that out, yeah.
And the third part of the memo is to review a set of guidelines and policy questions. I'll run through each of these 5. I would say what you're speaking about in terms of flexibility, we could also integrate in either to the administrative policies of our review committee to give them greater flexibility when a project needs more than the maximum that the grant allows. So in addition to that, we would like you to consider the ability to approve applications before property acquisition has happened. So if an applicant is the buyer of a property but isn't currently the owner, that they can make application to the program as long as they supply us a purchase contract and as long as settlement occurs within 60 days of an approval date. And that would give, in the case of a recent applicant, would give more flexibility to apply earlier and to help secure the grant and have the knowledge of the grant that would give more certainty to allow acquisition to take place.
Are you guys good with that?
The second is that the current guidelines limit the city center grant and the citywide redevelopment grants to just commercial and mixed-use projects only. So we are asking, as oftentimes we see projects that are 100% residential, specifically in the downtown area, if there is any desire by the council to consider applying the grant to 100% residential projects. For reference, the Partners in Economic Progress Program includes all 3 components, both commercial projects with a minimum investment level at $250, mixed-use projects, the combination of residential and commercial, at a minimum of $200,000 investment, in residential projects where there's a minimum $100,000 investment. I can see both sides to this question. It certainly would put more demand on the program where there are limited resources. I can also see the need for grants to support residential projects, solely residential projects. And, take for example, 170 West Washington, to be eligible for the Invest Hagerstown program, they needed to identify a commercial component to that building, where that building could be equally as viable if it was 100% residential. But to take advantage of the grant, they need to create a commercial component of that redevelopment project. So I welcome some feedback on this kind of key question.
Do you think we should include residential?
I think you should. I think we need to be prepared for the demand on the program as a result. So there's already significant pressure on the program. This will create more, but we want to see, specifically downtown, we want to see more upper floor housing happen. And we're going to want to encourage the momentum that is beginning in our downtown for upper floor housing.
Explain to me a little bit how that's different than the student housing.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If you want to make residential part of this program, I guess I'm trying to figure out how it's,
The student housing has typically been funded through community legacy, so we receive a grant for student housing from the state through the community legacy program, and then issue an RFP for housing development and select, in the case of this current year, taking the pot of funds and looking at 2 projects downtown to support housing. So I think you make a good point that if we're successful in continuing to get community legacy funding year over year to support residential development, then maybe that takes care of the need. However, if we aren't able to always get that community legacy money, would you want to integrate it into the Invest Hagerstown program? Where currently, to be eligible, it has to have a commercial component to our current Invest Hagerstown program.
To go back to our 170 West Washington Street, I think originally they were just going to do student housing or apartments, right?
the ugly one on the corner.
Right.
I was saying that for Bob. Go ahead. So,
I think the Invest Hagerstown program, 170 West Washington Street, the way to look at it would be, if they would have came to the table with the application and it was all residential, Invest Hagerstown guidelines would have said you're ineligible. They came to the table with 9 residential and 1 small commercial space, which is essentially 10% of the building. And that made them, or triggered them, as eligible for Invest Hagerstown. So is it worth looking at the guidelines to say, are these trivial commercial spaces, even in a similar way, looking at the old Flying Pie building where they received one of the original first third grants, where that was $1 million worth of residential with just a lesser use commercial space on the first floor basement. So are those small commercial aspects of those projects, is that necessary to trigger eligibility, or would a very similar building that was just fully residential, could they still be eligible as well?
but is that something we want on the first floor?
That's what I was thinking
I mean, I
too.
feel like if we head that direction,
Want storefronts
what you're
on the
saying
first
is
floor.
you're gonna convert that space to all residential.
I would say where there's a building where the first floor is configured for retail, you want retail and you want active use.
But if there is a residential
But there-
property that's just residential currently,
Right,
you would, that may not be in the core, maybe just outside the core, maybe, on the 200 block of, South Potomac Street. That could be just residential and without a commercial component on the first floor.
Right.
Would we want to make that eligible for Invest Hagerstown?
right. Because what it does is a developer will look to try to fit to the guidelines of the program, and they may choose to create a commercial component where they may not otherwise have done it. They may have done 100% residential project had that been eligible.
Gotcha. Or take one of these multi-unit buildings down here on East Franklin Street. It has no commercial on the first floor, but you have someone who wants to come in and rehab, and make that into, what are we calling it? Not upscale, but modernized housing, that you'd want that maybe to be eligible.
Right.
Or say there's ever any interest in the old YMCA buildings,
Mm.
and the interest is looking to make, I don't know, but right now it's not really outfitted for commercial
Right.
necessarily. I mean, it's set vacant for so long. So if somebody came in to do the old YMCA building, would we look to deny them access to eligibility?
I think we would give them all the money. Yes, all of it.
Take
Here you
it.
go. No rules for you, take it. Yeah. To anyone watching.
I mean, if there was an endless pot, sure, but I don't feel like we're at the point where we've got the critical mass of those commercial-oriented first-floor places up and running. I mean, I feel like we're like 2 or 3 years out of investment in those properties to get to that point. I mean, you say that the program's already stressed. I mean, you got more requests shown here in FY '22 than we're gonna have funding available. So, you know, we're into '23, at least '23, 24 to do that.
So do you want to hold off on making this change?
Sounds like that's where we're headed.
And maybe we bring to you any case on a case-by-case basis.
I like that
in the
idea.
interim.
Yeah.
On this one.
Yeah.
Will that generate any question of fairness?
Right. Cause now you're,
Oh, boy.
cause now you're doing it on
Yeah, you're saying, hey, you gotta be market rate,
Yeah.
and you gotta be market rate for how long?
True. Right.
yeah, I think that we don't,
So just,
I think we play it by ear with the guidelines we currently have. And then we see where that ends up. Again, and I'm gonna, fall back on the additional possibility of monies that we have for other things, that, we may be able to utilize for what you're seeking currently.
Like a one-time grab.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You say, hey, look, we got
Yeah.
$2 million available, it's gonna be $1 million over each year for these specific types, because we're supposed to be addressing, housing security in our community, and, you got 2 shots at this, and then that's it, and you create that sort of
So you better put together your
dynamic
plan.
drive, to get in the door and get it.
Kickstart it, yeah.
Yep.
okay, thank you for that. The third one is, with any redevelopment project, there's physical improvement costs, and there's also soft costs of architectural and engineering fees. So just clarification that these soft costs can count toward the eligible project cost in the 2-to-1 match. We still recommend property acquisition costs remain ineligible. We just wanted clarification on what is often common in architectural, engineering, and other soft costs.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, because cost is cost.
Me too, but I'm definitely not okay with property acquisition.
No, I'm
Right.
not either.
Okay.
And the fourth one is just clarification when an applicant is layering programs, that the same project costs can be eligible when we're layering programs. This makes sense to me from an administrative standpoint. The only exception may be where state or federal guidelines for any state or federally funded programs don't allow for that layering of matches.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
And the last, I may explain this one more by example, clarification of applications from different entities or LLCs with the same ownership individuals. So if you think of a shopping plaza that has 4 storefront areas, and each of the adjacent tenants are eligible for citywide redevelopment grants, and each would be separate entities with separate ownership individuals. That's very clear to us on how to administer that. But if you had a multi-tenant building and each of the tenant spaces were businesses that had the same ownership individuals behind them, would each of them be eligible to receive separate redevelopment grants for each of the business entities? So in a sense, you'd have a single person who may own 3 different business entities receiving 3 separate grants.
Totally different. One may be a yarn shop, one may be a bakery, one may be a pawn shop. I'm using that as a thing. I know we don't allow pawn shops downtown, but
Correct.
still, I mean, but the same person owns all 3. Listen, I think they're a large enough, let me finish before you say no. I think.
No, I'm saying yes.
Oh, you were saying yes?
Yes.
Okay,
I
there you go, I'm
discriminate.
fine, yeah.
Jesus.
What is the
Lord.
Well, you had that tone, that no tone going on, I figured that's what.
We had a long day.
Oh, yeah, you all got that no tone, I want you to know that, I keep my ears open for that.
Are you guys good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Good with that one?
I mean, it definitely makes sense.
Okay.
There, I saved you the speech.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, appreciate giving you the update.
Appreciate
Just for that, I'm gonna give you.
No,
That's so good.
City administrator.
Just one thing, Mayor. We're gonna finally have a nice evening for Music on the Square Friday night. It's gonna be a little warm, but it's summertime.
Yes.
The Anita Thomas Quartet is on the square 5:30 to 7:30. Actually bringing friends of ours from Frederick who have seen this is happening downtown and want to take part. So look forward to seeing folks there on Friday evening. That's it.
Thank you. Shelley?
Just really quick, I want to wish Amaya Molyneux good luck. Thursday she has a interview for the State Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year. She is a senior at Williamsport High School and attends the Nolan Village Club. I actually get the benefit of being one of the judges for the State Youth of the Year for the Boys and Girls Club, and I know that she is one of the finalists. So I want to wish Amaya a sincere good luck. It's a big deal. That's it.
So I wanted to do what moves you that was on the square. It was pretty awesome. I got to see Lillian. She was in my, so I want to shout her out. She was in my Primed and Polished at the Fine Arts Museum for 2 different seasons. And now she has her own jewelry line called the House of Lillian. So that was really cool. And I asked Madam Mayor to go down and meet her and just talk with her a little bit. And then also Olivia, they had a poetry on demand. And I asked, I gave them a prompt of poetry and politics. So I told Olivia that I would read this on, in my closing comments. So Olivia says, when poets write about the issues that plague them, their emotions show through. They spill their pain on the page like it has become them. They speak from truth, from hurt, from a place inside their heart. The beauty in the divide. They know what they say is true, and they make words blossom forth from the raging fire inside. Fight on, my poets. Speak on, my poets. Let the words inside you inspire you to do more. So good job, Olivia. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Yep.
So, we've been talking about community, I don't know how many times this morning, community focus. I just want to highlight some community residents here at Hagerstown that realizes that there's a gap and they have a solution. So Kia Phillips, a resident of Hagerstown, emailed me a couple weeks ago. Her daughter, 6-year-old daughter, actually brought up the idea of helping the homeless with providing them lunches. So I had a conversation with her, and back to solution-driven agendas, I was able to give her the street guide information from the Homeless Coalition, and that pictures of that spreadsheet with all the food drives and the food services we have here. So that was helpful for me to pass that information along with a resident that wants to help the community. Also, Takesha and I will be talking with Danielle Myers, resident of Bethel Gardens, with having a block party in remembrance of Tootie. She was a young girl that was murdered last year, and she wants to have a celebration of her life. But with talking with block parties, I would like to get information on how I can share that with her, with how we can get that going. So just sums up the community that we love. There's actual residents who want to help the community. They're just asking for us for guidance, and I think that we should continue to do a job with just spreading that awareness and giving the resources out there, because they care. They care as much as we care, but community focus is where we need to go. And also, congratulations to HTC graduates as well as high school graduates. Fun times. Thank you.
Nothing? All right. I do have a request for letter of support. I sent you guys an email for the hub at USMH. We've sent this every year. Just want to make sure it's okay to send again. Yep. All right, cool. I just wanted to say thank you to staff for prepping for our planning session today, for Donna and everyone else that helped set everything up, and for everyone coming and spending the morning with us and sharing our ideas and visions, and I'm very excited for the future. I hope that everyone else is too. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was congratulations to the graduation parade that happened downtown on Sunday. It was so awesome. I actually happened to be having brunch, a late brunch at 28 South, and forgot that it was happening and got to witness it on the square, and I live streamed it on Facebook. But it was led by Long Meadow Fire and HPD, and then HFD was involved, our auxiliary police, and all of the school seniors drove down pretty much the Mummers Parade route, and they sat on top of their cars. They had decorations with their school colors and signs, and it was just a really, really fun, great event in order to celebrate our seniors, since a lot of them weren't sure if they were gonna have an in-person graduation or not. So thanks to everyone that helped. Lieutenant Renner was down there helping, and just a lot of city staff that helped make that happen. So thank you guys. And with that, I think we're adjourned.
Cool.
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap. I'm joined this evening by Jill Thompson, the Director of the Department of Economic and, DCED, Community and Economic Development. I always want to mess that up. I always want to do the, DCED and PCAD. They always trip me up. They still trip me up.
You did well.
Well, once I thought it through. Well, thanks for being on. I'll tell you, you were in front of Mayor and Council talking about the Invest Hagerstown program and getting some feedback from them. And I don't know if there are as many people out there who are confused about what they heard like I am, but I think probably the best place to start on this, Jill, is tell me a little bit about what the Invest Hagerstown program is.
Right, and Invest Hagerstown is really an umbrella name for a set of 5 incentives that are geared toward developing new investment in our community in a variety of different ways. And the key goal of the program is to see physical changes and improvements to properties and to leverage public money to encourage private investment. So just to tell you a little bit about the 5 key components of the Invest Hagerstown program, for redevelopment of citywide properties where a developer is making improvements to the physical space of a property, that they're eligible for up to $25,000 in incentives if they're willing to match that 2-to-1 for a $75,000 project. So they put in $50,000, the city puts in $25,000 for at least $75,000 in improvements to a citywide building. When you come downtown, the incentive level goes up to the second program, which is our City Center Redevelopment Grant Program, with up to $250,000 grant if a developer is willing to improve a downtown building with at least $750,000 in investment. So another way to think about those redevelopment grants is that the city's willing to give the first third of the investment with the 2-to-1 match from the private sector. And that's very responsible use of public funding as a leverage and to encourage private development where it may not already happen. There's a couple other components to the program. There's a rental property rehabilitation program. So if someone is out there with a property that they rent out and they're a landlord and they want to make physical improvements to improve the quality of the rental products that we have in Hagerstown, that they're eligible for a grant up to $7,500 to make some improvements to the property. And then we also have a downtown facade grant program. And another really important program for residents and future residents of the city to know about is our home ownership program. So if someone is buying a home in Hagerstown that is built prior to 1960 and has been vacant for 12 months, targeting some of the more older and underutilized properties in our community, that they're eligible for down payment assistance up to $7,500. That also could be used to help with some of the improvements when they move into the property.
Wow, so there's a lot going on there. So 2 things that I want to ask on the heels of that. Number one, where does this money come from? And then the follow-up question to that, or one that may have some correlation to that, is something that Councilmember Alshire mentioned. He said, everyone pays into this. What does that mean exactly?
Well, several years ago, the council made an adjustment to the tax rate in order to create this program. So there's about $800,000 each year that was a result of a slight change in the tax rate. So the community is paying into it, and we want to push that money back out into the community through the variety of different components so that everyone benefits.
Okay, well, that certainly makes sense. So the money comes in and then we give it back in order to enhance the city as a whole, as it were. And you mentioned that that third, that's where I always heard, I guess that's kind of the old school, the first third program maybe was a sort of a predecessor to Invest Hagerstown?
It was really the original name of it.
Okay.
Looking at the city giving 1/3 and a private investor giving 2/3. But because we've broadened the different components of the program, creating that umbrella name of Invest Hagerstown. Because really what we're looking for by using this money is looking for new investment in our community. In our last full fiscal year of fiscal year 20, the $800,000 that was allocated by the mayor and council was used to leverage over $9.2 million in new investment. So it's oftentimes far more than just 1/3 that our investors are giving far more in their private investment to realize a $9.2 million investment.
Yeah, unquestionably, that is a huge number from 800,000 when you think of that amount of money, that investment being generated from that. And another question that I had, something that came up in the discussion during the meeting, was about advertising this program. How is the program advertised? How do people find out? How do they know about this?
Right, well, we have information that we put out through our Facebook and through our website. There's very detailed information on our website. And also as people contact our office learning about investment opportunities, we share information about all of the programs. And we'd like to do more proactive outreach, talking with real estate brokers, making sure they understand the home ownership component. We'd like to reach the landlords more. That was a part of tonight's discussion, because the rental property rehabilitation program is a little bit underutilized, and we really want to find the landlords out in the community that want to improve that rental product that we have to offer for our residents.
I know you were looking for some specifics as it relates to the dollar amounts for the different components, and to get some feedback from the council tonight. And the one word, as opposed to dollar amounts, that you heard was flexibility. So what do you go back and do with that now that you've received that direction?
Right, I think in administering any incentive program, you have a set of guidelines, but you also want to continually revisit your guidelines and look at what comes through the door and test to see if the guidelines make sense. So I think specifically with the rental property rehabilitation, the maximum grant is $7,500. Is that enough for some rental properties? And would landlords out there say that it's not enough to get them to do a project? So we really want to listen to what the community needs, and take that feedback back to the mayor and council to see if adjustments are needed to our guidelines. And I think that's the flexibility they're talking about.
Is it worrisome to you at all that you look at the demand for fiscal year 22 and you see that you have $819,000 or thereabouts, and the demand is already at about 1.2 million?
It's exciting, I would say. You know, really that when you have demand, you're seeing success in a program.
Right. People are certainly aware of it, and they want to take advantage of it, which is a good thing, because then we're generating that investment.
Right. So this is a good problem to have. I think what it causes us to do is think about creative solutions, and where could we find other funding beyond the $800,000 that the mayor and city council have allocated for the next fiscal year. Where can we find other funding that allows us to accomplish some of the same goals?
How about the guidelines and parameters as they relate to not only Invest Hagerstown, but then some of the other programs that incentivize this type of investment in the city?
Right. I really would say if anyone is considering any project, just contact our office so we can walk you through the menu of programs that we have. So these 5 programs are just a sampling of what is out there to help assist a variety of different projects. We have our Partners in Economic Progress program. We have our Life Safety Infrastructure Development Grant program, which helps with the high cost of retrofitting some of our older buildings downtown to support fire suppression systems. There's plenty of county and state programs available. And as we come out of the pandemic, there's recovery money that is here and should be utilized to help stabilize our businesses in the community.
Yeah, very impressive program. I think when you look at the history of it and where it's headed from here, and anything else that you want to add as it relates to this program as we kind of wrap up our council wrap?
Yeah, I think it's important for locals to help us tell the story. And if they're aware of businesses or investors that aren't familiar with Hagerstown that would consider opportunities here, that we welcome community residents being ambassadors for our economic development efforts. Let's all share the story and let's all encourage investment in our community.
Yeah, certainly when you talk about advertising something, that is still the best form of advertising is a satisfied customer letting someone else know that they're satisfied. That certainly helps everyone in the long run. So like you said, I think there are a lot of satisfied customers out there as it relates to this program. Thank you very much, Jill. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
For Jill Thompson, I'm Wes Decker. Thanks for watching. That will do it for Council Wrap this evening. I'll see you next time after the next work session here on The City.